afternoon, I'm Alexander Fedorov, author of Tashkent, Modernism. Today I'll give you a personal tour of the exhibition Tashkent, Architecture of Historical Optimism. Come with me. Let's go inside and immerse ourselves in the atmosphere of evening Tashkent in the 1960s, 1970s. Modernism is often underestimated in the post-Soviet space, as it is commonly perceived as being limited to simplistic concrete box structures. In fact, this is the most humanistic period in architecture because it was aimed at meeting the needs of people, providing them with housing, cultural leisure, and in general, doing only good. Here we see a curatorial text that I myself couldn't write, but a very good person, Yaroslav Alishin, wrote it. His review in the project was, in a manner of speaking, a text with curatorial qualities. He most accurately and sensitively conveyed the thoughts that I laid down in the concept of the exhibition. A large number of individuals took part in the exhibition. This is not just my own work, but also involves curating, where I carefully chose 30 photographers who added to the depiction of Tashkent's architecture. Because the posters I have presented here depict an idealized image of buildings that were constructed during that particular period of time. I desired to provide support for this with live photographs. Not solely photographs of Tashkent photographers, but also photographers who are visiting, foreign photographers, who will be able to fully notice the details that locals do not notice. And the locals, knowing the context, will emphasize the specific details that they know. And the picture becomes more complete. As you can see, for example, here we observe a TV tower. The TV tower is idealized, photographed in perspective, a cleaned building. In this photo, for instance, Nikita Pertsev, whom I observed in the photo lab as a negative, here we observe how the shadow from the television tower is imposed on the city. So it, in essence, exists, so it truly is, because the TV tower is one of the tallest engineering structures in Tashkent. She consistently leaves an indelible mark as a symbol on the entire city. This symbol, it is exhibited here in a precise and literal manner, resembling a television tower, and is always prominently visible from every corner of the city, demonstrating how it is displayed. Here we observe a magnificent photo of Julia Zimin, in which the minaret of the minor mosque is overlaid in perspective on the TV tower, resulting in a portrayal of the modern city of Tashkent that combines technology, science, and spirituality in people's lives. Here is a wonderful photograph by Yulia Golubkova, a photographer from Tashkent, which depicts such a romantic scene where an adult man stands and observes, simply on the bridge, stands and observes the TV tower. Admires, so to speak, her forms, her built-in appearance. Here is another main symbol of the Tashkent earthquake, and Tashkent in particular, for example. This is a monument of courage. The monument of courage erected at the epicenter of the earthquake, the epicenter of the tragedy, which served as the modernization of the city, which is also the main symbol of the victorious, so to speak, the new city over the tragedy, over the elements. This complex was constructed a decade after the earthquake. Additionally, in this location, we also observe that the poster provides backing for the photographs captured by Korean photographer Pyo Seung-chun, Tashkent photographer Aziz Abdurakhmatov, and Russian photographer Nikita Bilya. And we see how it was conceived by the authors and how it lives from different perspectives, from the point of view of different photographers. Here we actually switch in a group of photos and posters, compositions. We are in this building, there is an exhibition in this building. This is a youth house. The youth house was built by a group of architects under the guidance of Richard Blythe. As I always stumble, despite my last name, he is an architect from Tashkent. But this is not an example of an international style classical, such a bright, slightly brutal modernism. Here, only the high-rise building of this building is displayed without a stylobate in order to emphasize the legs or Georgian nature of this building. Here are also various fragments of this building, such as the stylobate, sponges, recreational part, the one in which we find the former restaurant cafe part. Here is the side facade and, in fact, the perspective of the building, which perfectly combine in their composition and give a more complete picture. Photos are an important detail. The exhibition features posters supported by photographers and their photographs not only from Tashkent, because Tashkent photographers and all of us Tashkent residents, being slightly longer in context, do not notice some details. And one of the points of view was represented by the photographs of Curating, an architectural photographer and urban landscape photographer. More about your photo and participation in the exhibition.
At this exhibition, 6 of my works are presented, 2 of which can be seen at this booth. This is the architectural decoration, House Pearl. Often I'm always looking for unique angles on the city, and often these angles are taken from high points. When you observe the mountains from an elevated position, you discover something distinctive in the progress of cities. So, when examining these 2 photos of the Pearl House, you can clearly see in the first one the impressive volume and scale of this building in comparison to other surrounding urban development projects located in the vicinity. Looking at the second photo, you can notice how the House Pearl stands out with its uniqueness among various architectural styles and strongly resembles a spaceship. This is my vision of the building Pearl that I wanted to convey to the exhibition viewers.
One of the bright buildings of the era is presented in this composition in the representation of several photographers and a poster. Here is a pleasing photo of Fatima Abdurrahmanova with a date at the foot of the aircraft builder's palace, where young people and their shadows are reflected on the facade of this building, creating a beautiful scene. Here are also pictures of Tashkent photographers, Tashkent metro photos, Uzbek photos by Ernest Kurtveliev, and a very interesting photo by Stanislav Magai, where we witnessed the removal of marble tiles from the clock of the editorial building, the publishing house. These photos represent the changes that have taken place in Tashkent over the past 10 years of our century. And such an interesting photo of the transformation of this building. Now she looks a little different. Here we observe a composition that is dedicated to the construction of our most beloved state circus. Many different photos, but one, again, I want to highlight special. Photo of Tashkent photographer Fatima Abdurrahmanova. Here is a typical photo for Tashkent, photo of children bathing in a fountain. In Tashkent, it is customary for children to swim in fountains. One of the valuable perspectives showcased at the exhibition is the perspective captured and presented by photographer Maxim Lee. Maxim Lee is a photographer from Tashkent who presented his vision, his point of view also on the city and on one of its main buildings, a hotel in Uzbekistan. Maxim will tell you more about it.
The winter of 2023 was quite significant for Tashkent as there was a lot of snow. As a photographer, I wanted to capture this moment when the city is not quite the same as we are used to, and when there is a lot of snow, I went to the most significant places in the city that are associated with the architecture of Tashkent, including the Hotel Uzbekistan. I desired not only to lease a hotel, but to experience some motion, some sentiment, and in this place we observe a lady navigating through snowdrifts in delicate footwear, hurrying to her job. It is the early hours of the morning, snowfall, an umbrella, a stunning hotel in Uzbekistan, and a substantial amount of snow.
Here is the picture that ended up being taken.
Photographer Olga Ochinashova. She lived in different cities, in different countries, and having moved to Tashkent, she, like in other cities, very subtly caught the mood of Tashkent. Olya will tell about how Tashkent charmed her and how she took photos that
exhibited at event.
Good day. I adore architecture and geometry in frames, filmed in diverse cities, countries. I resided in Europe for a period of time, which likely provided me with a significant amount of experience. That is the reason why I believe Tashkent is unique, and I fell in love with it very quickly and deeply. At this exhibition, 4 of my works are showcased, but my favorite is this one, about which I'll tell you. She came into being in winter during a walk I was captivated by the fountain adjacent to the exhibition hall of the Union of Artists, as it was embellished with delicate ceramic tiles, reminiscent of the adornments on many buildings in my hometown during my childhood. I approached closer, saw melted water, last year's leaves, and as a photographer, I understand that where there is water, there is a reflection, and reflection is one of the themes in my photography. So all I had to do was create a beautiful composition, find symmetry, and voila, there it was. And I would also like to mention that this photo reminds me of Venice, more specifically St. Mark's Square, because I have a very similar photo with a reflection in my collection.
One of the types of mediums is building layouts. Building layouts were created on 3D printers based on the GES2 House of Culture, which is a type of medium. There are currently 3 buildings, but there will be 4. This is the Cotton Pavilion building located at the Expo Center, demolished in 2008. This is a type of tribute to Oscar Niemeyer, who constructed the capital of Brazil, Brasilia, and particularly his structure, the Cathedral of St. Mary. One of the important tools for immersing in the era of historical optimism was light. The visual concept of the exhibition was inspired by the films of the Thaw period, Uzbek cinema in Tashkent. This is Tenderness, this is Street of 13 Poplars, this is Boy and Girl.
The first thing I would like to say is light. This is something we usually pay little attention to, but it directly shapes our perception of space, psychophysical aspects, and our emotional state. In general, the impression we get about the exhibition. Start with our first main technique. Let's go. Let's take a look. It is soft reflected light on the ceiling, situated between the beams of the room's architecture. Here we attempted to create a reference to the image. Repeat the Tashkent metro or underground train station crossings. In what way did Soviet architects accomplish this to enhance visual comfort? We don't know how well someone could read it, but we like it. And overall, in combination with neon signs, it looks quite harmonious and does not contradict each other. We paid careful attention to accents on the exhibits on display, so you can go on any of Sasha's excursions. Note that when he starts dancing around these posters, actively gesturing, there are no sharp contrasting shadows created here, and that you can examine each of these posters. They will not let you miss any details. In the context of this exhibition, a few of our works are being presented. We should go and see them together. It will be great. This is an initiative direction. This is an architecture that greatly impresses us. We develop concepts and then make an effort to implement them in some way or another. This is the building of the former Lenin Museum. When working on the concept, in our opinion, the most important thing is to consider the main idea of the architect, what he was trying to convey here, and try to make an accent on this, somehow highlight it. For example, this building emphasizes the image of soaring. Cube is chosen due to the fact that we brightly illuminate the ceiling space in a remarkable manner. And overall, we create the impression this building appears to be floating in the air. And separately, we highlight the mosaic either with a contrasting technique, a bright background, or with direct sliding light on the relief.
In this cinema corner, we have unique elements such as neon signs, a triptych, and a central place, all of which are associated with the panoramic cinema. The signage reads Palace of Art in Uzbek as Sanat Saroy. Additionally, there is a composition dedicated to this building, making it a truly remarkable space for film exhibitions. And one of the remarkable photographs is this one taken by Eric Muzipov, who used a pinhole camera to capture this photo with a unique perspective. Pinhole is among the initial cameras created by humans without the utilization of optical components. This is a box in which a hole is created, and whatever is projected through this hole is imprinted on a silver plate, which is subsequently transferred to a photograph. Here, also located with us, in continuation of the cinema theme, screens are located, screens on which the chronicle is spinning. With a voiceover for the chronicle, a total of 17 stories are presented, which serve as representatives of Tashkent life from various ages and occupations, primarily focusing on the cultural sphere. The personal stories of each of the buildings presented at the exhibition, which, in addition to the aesthetics of architecture and architecture as a visual art, fill these buildings with a sense of soul. These stories act as a bridge between generations and our immediate closest historical heritage of Tashkent modernism, preserving our link to the past. One of the most interesting buildings in Tashkent is the building of the Memorial Tea House Samarkand, designed by Sergo Sutyagin. Regrettably, this tea house is presently bogged down in construction and renovations. Thus, we are unable to appreciate its exquisite shapes and dimensions in person. That is why I decided to construct this building, which is already halfway, so to speak, lost, to showcase its layout at the exhibition so that everyone could enjoy and be amazed by the beautiful and unusual buildings we have in Tashkent. Screens with newsreels played an important role in creating the image and atmosphere of the era of historical optimism. Here we see a relief screen, the shapes of which are replicated from the facades of multi-story residential buildings in Block C27. And here it turns out the idea is that these chronicles, so to speak, are projected onto the relief and the size of the architecture of the city itself. This is a relief screen that is created based on sketches and real forms of houses that are very characteristic of Tashkent city. These reliefs were designed to serve as sunscreens, acting as protective elements against the sun's rays. Still had a decorative function. Besides functionalism, there was also a decorative element adorning the facades of residential buildings in Tashkent, and another composition for one of Tashkent modernism's main buildings, the Palace of Friendship of Peoples. Here are pictures captured by different authors, including the talented photographer Danila Nenkov. Danila Nenkov is an architectural photographer specializing exclusively in architecture. It's such a spacious, you can say a big shot, a spacious panel, a spacious image. There is also a photo here, one of my favorites, of this white horse Gain Avanesian, to whom this photo appeared in a dream. She dreamed of this photo in a dream, and she made it come true in reality. Here, we are moving forward, and here we have two neon signs. One with Chelanzaro, with the port of Buemlare, the incredibly ancient sports store in which it was suspended and prominently displayed. And the Hotel Dustlik. Dustlik, for individuals who are not aware, it signifies friendship in Uzbekistan. Dustlik Mehmong House. Now it's redone and there are no signs, but this is a very important image of the city of that period. The final Tashkent modernism building in chronological order, another palace, Turkestan Palace. We all know him, love him. There were many events in it at the time. Here is also a Tashkent photographer, Babur Alim Khajayev, who takes very romantic photos, usually of cultural events. But even brutal architecture here. Look how beautifully and romantically filmed in the leaves and flowers of blooming Tashkent. Here is the National Historical Museum, once Lenin's Museum. Also presented are photographs by Danil Ninkov, photographs by Lily Merkalimova, who became such a fashion photographer that now it is also very popular to photograph fashion against the background of a beautiful museum building. Here we have a sign for Cafe Corner. Cafe Corner is well known to everyone for its delicious tobacco chickens. Currently, it has been extensively redesigned. Yes, because we can now see a very cool inscription that expands upwards, creating an interesting visual effect with the name Corner. And here, once again, the title in two different languages, Cafe Corner and Corner Cafes in Uzbek, as it used to be always hanging. Both languages combined with a building in the middle. And you see what's shown in this photo, where this sign is copied from. One of the main attractions, a pearl, or rather a masterpiece of world modernism and Tashkent modernism in particular, as depicted in archival photographs, due to extensive modifications undergone by the building, has undergone significant changes and lost much of its original appearance. And the architect from Tashkent, Vladimir Spivak, who constructed it, was able to achieve sheer perfection with this building. It appears to be a large couch, a large divan, and it was a restaurant complex that now needed to be reimagined into some sort of big food court, as is currently fashionable and in vogue. And this neon sign, which was also lost from the facade, like the facade itself, is accompanied by archival photographs provided by the architect's grandson, Anton Spivak. Subsequently, we proceed to another remarkable and bright inscription from that time, namely a luminous neon sign of the cinema Iskra, which unfortunately was also demolished and no longer exists today. Photos show he stood next to Ministry Building on Lenin Square, now Mustaqilik, several photos included. Once there was the Aladdin Theatre. Unfortunately, this building and the sign are no longer there, but it is a very characteristic example of the style of the era. Here we can observe, only a few can read, despite the fact that it is written in Uzbek, but here is a peculiar, very unusual lettering which is difficult to understand at first, but here it says Modlaru in Uzbek. This is a house mod, which is now a cinema called Yulduz, and once there was a fashion bar, and so on and so forth, and many other interesting things. Here are the photos from which this sign was taken, Modelar UA, and recently, a mosaic panel with a girl with braids, which greatly pleased the residents of Tashkent, was opened on the facade of this building when it was opened again for viewing and opened from this very beloved Alukabond of ours. The Puppet Theatre in Tashkent, designed by architects, is one of my favorite buildings in the city, presented by photographs of Olga Ochinashova, Andrei Zhuravlev, and this is the most plastic, the most expressive building in Tashkent, because it has many volumes and you approach it from different angles and it changes its image, changes its appearance. And on the poster, in particular, my favorite view is presented because there are many different volumes here and it vertically goes into such an unusual composition. Here we can observe another preferred spot among the residents of Tashkent, not a restaurant, but in the form of a cafe, a pavilion dedicated to cafes. Even this is challenging to classify as a structure in numerous pieces of literature. The Café Buratino, the Café Corner, the Café Blue Domes, which was never actually designated by that specific name. There is an old sign that indicates Café Cupola. Subsequently, due to the color of the domes themselves, individuals began referring to them as blue domes. This is a photo of Olga Ochinashova showcasing the extraordinary structure created by the Tashkent architects Vladimir Muratov. It is truly a remarkable piece of architecture. Additionally, the relief of the back facade, yes, is a highly characteristic work with chiaroscuro, showcasing the perspective of Anastasia Klimova. Following that, we have another composition present here, which is no less significant as a building for the residents of Tashkent. The Museum of Friendship of Nations, currently the Museum of Olympic Glory, was constructed in the complex with the Monument of Courage and opened in the same complex. He has a new friend, a new bridge for him, which led him into a new time because it's a modern bridge, but it blends well with the building itself. Farkad Tursunov, one of the authors, architects of this building, he certainly did an incredibly job. I am acquainted with his granddaughter. The story of the granddaughter and the story told by Farkad Tursunov is presented on the screen. A building of great significance and importance both culturally and architecturally, with a rich history that holds immense cultural, architectural and historical value. The building of the House of Cinema, which Tashkent lost a few years ago, is presented here in the form of a layout, which the guys from Habitat Academy helped me make. This is a wonderful example of international modernism in which many stories took place and which will forever remain in the memory of the people of Tashkent. An expressive and vibrant immersive medium at the exhibition are the light installations, which take the form of neon signs that were once hung in the city, creating a captivating atmosphere for visitors to experience and enjoy. Two signs can be seen on a building, specifically the Central Department Store building, indicating its significance and presence in the area. The first inscription is Marzazi Department Store Tiesum, and here we see the photos that are located under this sign, which show directly where this sign came from, where the reproduction was made. This sign was hung on a cafe that is located on the roof of Tiesum, and the sign says Café Vetrok. The identical cafe that was utilized as the location for multiple scenes in a romantic Uzbek film of that particular period, where young individuals would frequently sit and pass the time. I got acquainted, met, and in general left a lasting trace in the rich history of the vibrant city of Tashkent. One of my favorite and vivid photographs on display, which inspired me to collect photographs of photographers, is the photograph of Misha Borodin. Misha is a director and laureate of the Berlin Film Festival.
This picture was taken at the Chorsu market. The person shown in the photo is Orla Cash. Individuals who wait for other individuals who have made purchases in order to assist them with the delivery process. This picture was captured at the instant when I was welcoming visitors. And naturally, you escort them directly to the marketplace so that they can purchase various kinds of candies, observe some local scenery. I witnessed that the shadow descends in a remarkably cool and refreshing manner, and there is a noticeable and vibrant movement in the market that is filled with energy and excitement. For guests, it's such a tourist experience. For ordinary residents of Tashkent who go to the bazaar every day, it's just another trip to the bazaar. In my opinion, I believe this contrast was captured in this rather random photograph.
This is the heroine of Tashkent life, Tashkent architecture, Chorsu Hotel. The Chorsu Hotel, where there's always lots of different life, and it's currently in a strange suspended state. Here is a picture of when it began to be reconstructed, the process of reconstructing which is still ongoing, and this renaming of it from Chorsu Hotel to Moscow Hotel and then back to Chorsu Hotel. And this is also reflected by the same neon sign, a replica of the neon sign, which regrettably has already been lost. The Chorsu Hotel and Bazaar turned out to be the liveliest because in this place the heart and life of Tashkent are truly concentrated. Several photos that deserve special attention. For example, a photograph by Arsen Fazilyanov in which we see an escape from snowy Tashkent, where two women with suitcases are running away, you can say, from the snowy city, from the snowy old city, where the dome is covered with snow. The photograph, again, by Kirina Latsenbenko, showing the dome of the Chorsu Bazaar, resembling a large spaceship, showing this nature and commitment to those forms of that time associated with space. And one of my favorite photos is also a photo taken by Tashkent photographer Ildar Sadikov, where a dried fruit seller is standing in an arch, and the windows of the dome of the Chorsu Bazaar can be seen as he reads namaz. It is extremely vivid, remarkably lifelike, and greatly supports the overall structure of this composition, the actual building of the Chorsu Dome Bazaar, and simultaneously demonstrates in a more multifaceted manner this living object of history and culture of our city. The exhibition would not have happened if it were not for the accidental and non-accidental coincidence of circumstances and factors. Irina Abkarat, Director of International Relations at Ilhom Theatre, oversees global affairs.
Irina Abkarat in the late November night did not sleep and spent time exploring Instagram. I went to a meeting on Instagram. At this meeting there was Sasha, who talked about his concept and presented the project of Tashkent modernism. With great pleasure and surprise, I watched that this story takes place in Moscow and thought how unfortunate it is that it is not happening in our Tashkent. Alexander, hello. I wrote at 2 o'clock in the morning. I just watched your meeting on Instagram. It would be so great and interesting to meet you and discuss the possibility of conducting and implementing this project in Tashkent at the Ilhom Theatre. And this meeting took place right here at the Ilhom Theatre, where we are located within these walls, where this beautiful exhibition is currently hanging. We started planning, but unfortunately there was a fire incident.
First with a fire, yes.
There was a fire in the exhibition hall at the Ilhom Theatre. Almost everything burned down, and Sasha's exhibition, as you understand, has been postponed indefinitely.
And it turns out that we renovated both the place itself, and it is very symbolic that everything coincided, and as if by chance and not by chance. The soundtrack, specially written for the exhibition by Viktor Kirillov and Igor Ten, will immerse us in the atmosphere of an evening walk through Tashkent of that detached period. Attend the exhibition titled Tashkent, Architecture of Historical Optimism, and fully immerse yourself in the time when your beloved city was established, developing an even deeper affection for it. Thank you to everyone who was with us on the tour, who came to the exhibition, who will come to the exhibition, who left cool and kind comments, to everyone who posted on Instagram. Here are all the individuals I want to express my sincere gratitude to. Nearly all the individuals who assisted with their hands, heart, soul, and their entire being. Special thanks, separate big thanks to the Swiss Bureau for the Development of Culture, El Hum Theater, which hosted and did everything possible for the exhibition to take place on their territory. To the Center for Artistic Production of the HS Arches, as well as the Hobbit Academy and all other parties involved. Thank you all. Love your city, appreciate it.
Приходите.